Bet like the pros with the world's largest sportsbook right at your fingertips. Circus Sports is now available in Illinois. Hi, I'm Derek Stevens. I've been a lifelong sports bettor, and I'm the owner of Circus Sports. We're excited that the Circus Sports app is now ready for action. Experience big app bets with high betting limits, tight money line splits, and more. Now you can download, fund, and bet like a pro from anywhere in Illinois. Download your new bookie today at circusports.com. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text ILGAMB to 833-234.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
The following is a snippet of an exclusive members-only podcast episode for our Patreon, Chronicles Tifosi. Become a member at patreon.com/Serie A Chronicles for regular bonus episodes and content.
Hello to all of our listeners at Serie A Chronicles. We're doing something a little bit different today in the sense that we have a question from Bilal Mirza on Twitter. What were the best and worst moments of 2023 for each one of you? And what are you most hopeful for in 2024 football-wise? I'm going to kick things off. First of all, thank you very much, Bilal, for the question, which is pretty wide-ranging in the way that we can interpret it. I'm going to start by saying it's a fairly obvious answer, but for me, the best moment of 2023 was the Napoli story. 33 years in the making, and we've had plenty of close shaves with Napoli down the years, particularly with the Maurizio Sarri side of the 91 points in the 2017-18 season. And I think that's what made it so special. I'm not going to necessarily talk about the season as a whole, but I'm going to identify one moment, and that moment for me really was the 1-0 victory late on against Juventus when Giacomo Raspadori scored a brilliant volley in the driving rain in added time, because it immediately evoked memories of Kalidou Koulibaly, who had scored, if memory serves, 5 years ago the previous day to win a match at then Juventus Stadium before it became known as Allianz Stadium, and to have Napoli potentially on the cusp of winning that first Scudetto under Sarri. Many thought they would do so. They didn't, because the next weekend Juventus had that crazy 3-2 win at Inter when there was all the drama involving Miralem Pjanic, Mattias Vecino. Inter went 2-1 up despite being down to 10 men, and Gonzalo Higuain of Juventus, formerly of Napoli, was the man who eventually got the winning goal for a 3-2 win for Juventus at Inter. And for large swathes of that match, it had looked like Luciano Spalletti, who was coaching Inter then, was actually going to do Maurizio Sarri and Napoli a huge favour in the title race. It wasn't to be. Juventus got over the line. Napoli, in their disappointment in a hotel room in Florence, then went out the next day. There was an early sending off for Koulibaly, he of the winning goal, and Giovanni Simeone, then of Fiorentina, scored a hat-trick in a 3-0 win for Fiorentina that day, and that was then dubbed by Sarri the Scudetto that Napoli lost in the hotel room. So I think because of all of those intertwining stories, you've got Spalletti on the one hand, who almost gave Napoli a big push towards that Scudetto 5 years early. He was actually the architect of this Napoli side winning the Scudetto. Giovanni Simeone, who would eventually score Napoli's final goal of the season in that 2-0 victory against Sampdoria. Brilliant goal as well at the Maradona. He, an Argentine, it felt like we'd come full circle. He who, with that hat-trick, had actually denied Sarri's Napoli team of that first Scudetto since 1990. That was in the 2017-18 season. So for me, it was just so evocative, so powerful. There was so much imagery and symbolism there, because it had been Juventus that had twice beaten Napoli to the Scudetto. In two separate occasions, Sarri's side had been winter champions, top of the halfway stage, only to be eventually beaten to the line by the Bianconeri. So there were two key moments for me, which really were the best moments of last season. One was when Raspadori scored that winning goal, and that's when we really felt it wasn't mathematically sure then, but that was the guarantee. That was the real moment when everyone knew definitively that Napoli had gone that extra step, that they were finally ready to be champions again. And the other one was the reverse fixture against Juventus. Napoli 5, Juventus 1 in January, when Napoli just absolutely wiped the floor with the Juventus side that came into that match on the back of 8 straight victories without conceding a goal, 8 wins, 8 clean sheets. They'd become Napoli's nearest challengers amid a very good run. Some people felt they were a little bit streaky, but Napoli just wiped the floor with them. There was a nice goal from Angel Di Maria in there, but it was a case of Victor Osimhen and Kvicha Kvaratskhelia. They really showed what they could do that night. We'd already had significant evidence from them in the first half of the season, but this is after Napoli had come back from the winter break, after they'd lost their first game of the calendar year at Inter, and people were starting to wonder whether they would have a bit of a blip. Not so, no blip. 5-1, a victory for the ages against the team they despise the most. And despise is a very strong word, but I think it is appropriate here because there's nothing like the disdain that Napoli supporters feel for Juventus. So the best 2 moments for me really were those 2 victories for Napoli against Juventus, because they really were the standout moments amid a magical, once-in-a-generation season for the Partenopei. I would also give a special mention and a shout-out to those 2 Milan derbies that we saw in the semi-finals of the Champions League, nearly 20 years on. That was absolutely wonderful. And I know Nicky was there with me as well at San Siro.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
It was just a great privilege to be at those games, to be working on and reporting on those games of huge significance. It was very satisfying to know that whatever happened in that tie, we would have an Italian representative in the Champions League final again for the first time since 2017 when Juventus were there. Unfortunately, it went the way of 2017 and 2015 when Juventus were beaten, but Inter went so close in Istanbul to beating a brilliant Manchester City side who, lest we forget, went on to win the treble. So I think all of Inter's Champions League run as a whole, but also having that presence of Italian clubs in the semi-final with Milan, with Inter, and also even the presence of Napoli in the quarter-final draw. It was a huge privilege as someone covering Italian football to have first Napoli against Milan and then the Milan derby in the Champions League semi-final. So those are my 2 best moments of 2023. The worst moments, I'm sorry we have to rake over old graves. I'm sorry it has to be given this sort of coverage, but I am sick and tired, sick to the back teeth of hearing the expression sul campo, on the pitch, which unfortunately has become Juventus's recent refrain again. Massimiliano Allegri, in reference to last season when, yes, in terms of the points that they acquired, Juventus did enough to finish in the Champions League places, but there were 2 separate points penalties, 15 and 10, if memory serves. And so whilst he's right, all he can do is go out and coach his team and try and get as many points and victories as possible. You also have to acknowledge there comes a time when you have to hold your hands up and say, okay, the club was found guilty of irregularities, financial or otherwise, and we therefore have to take on the chin the appropriate penalties. But for me, the expression sul campo, it still evokes those bad memories of Calciopoli. It still reminds me of the 38 badge, Scudetto crest that Juventus used to brazenly have on display at their stadium. For the record, they are 36 times champions of Italy. So all of that leaves a bit of a bad taste, and it brought back bad memories as well. And I thought the Italian game had moved on from that. So my hope for 2024, as we segue into that first and foremost, is that we can actually have a bit more positivity about the Italian game. We want to move away from these negative headlines, and so that is my first wish for this new calendar year. And the thing I'm most excited for is seeing Italy again at a major tournament. Lest we forget, the Azzurri qualified neither for the 2022 Qatar World Cup nor for the 2018 showpiece in Russia, but Italy do go into Euro 2024 as reigning champions, albeit only 3 years on from the previous edition because that was pushed back by a year due to the pandemic. I was lucky enough to interpret for the Italian team throughout their triumph in 2020, asterisk 2021, and I'm very excited by what Luciano Spalletti and his players can do with lower expectations. No one's really looking too much at Italy. First and foremost, I expect them to get out of the group because of the forgiving format. 2014, 16 go through to that first knockout stage. And from there, who knows? It's anyone's guess. As we saw from the previous edition, you don't necessarily always need to win matches over 90 minutes. Stick in there, keep believing, and Italy can go very far. And who knows, if they can't then actually defend their European crown, it would give them a real boost ahead of World Cup qualifying for the US, Canada and Mexico. Hopefully Italy won't miss out on 3 consecutive World Cups. So Bilal, thank you very much for the question, which has given us a lot of food for thought, so much so we've all taken a few days to give it plenty of consideration. But I'm very curious, I don't know about you guys, rather than me wittering on, I'm very curious to hear from my 2 colleagues on Serie A Chronicles. So first and foremost, I'd be delighted to hand over to Nikki Bandini, who's going to tell us all about her best and worst moments from 2023 and also what she's most looking forward to from 2024. Over to you, Nikki.
Thanks, Patrick, and thank you, Bilal, as well, for a fun question.
Head to serieachronicles.com/Patreon now and subscribe to the Chronicles Tifosi Patreon membership with a free 7-day trial. Get early access to every full-length episode and voice note before the rest of the world. Plus, all episodes are 100% ad-free. And you get bonus Patreon-only exclusive episodes, video episodes, and behind-the-scenes extras. Also, be sure to join the new chat community in the Patreon app and chat with fellow subscribers.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
What's better than free? How about play free all year? This January at Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee, you can win over $2,000 in reward play every month all year long. Just play your favorite games to earn prize drawing entries. Then stop by each Thursday night in January to see if you're a winner. $400,000 in prizes is up for grabs. Over 40 winners each week. Yeah, free is for me. More info at paysbig.com. Must be 21 years old and a club member to play.